Hi, everyone, and we're back from break. And I'm here with Andrew Peck, who just, I was going to say led us through a Pokemon quest. He definitely did something. Um, and, wait, hold on. I just saw a big chat, big thing in chat real quick.
It's from James.
So if you could just have the same Pokemon conversation again as you did before the break, that time period.
Oh my god.
Wait till the fourth hour. We'll have more Pokemon conversation.
James, you're going to want to Google the following Pokemon and look at their Japanese names.
No. But James, I correctly predicted that that Daisy would like Sarina, aka BBL Onion.
I do like BBL Onion.
She a baddie. Where were we? Oh yes, interview with Andrew Peck.
This is going to be pretty bonkers.
Hey, how you feeling? How you feeling after Pokemon?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good.
He answered a goddamn question.
Daisy never shows up on camera.
Daisy shows up on camera.
Sometimes I'm on camera. This time you showed up early. So normally it's like I play first hour.
First and fourth hour normally.
I'm on camera.
Yeah.
And then but I'm not like if the guest comes, the guest will be on camera.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I'm definitely less on camera than Dom is. But yeah, that's kind of first and fourth hour sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm rocking my it's spring break and I'm gonna fucking just wear a jacket. But that's also kind of low-key my energy.
Daisy's gonna try to keep drinking until midnight so they can go Wine Wednesday, spring break.
Wine Wednesday! Oh my god.
Hello,
Daisy, during the break, you mentioned you went to something
interview.
called the Maple Festival.
Oh, that's right.
I did.
Go on.
Yeah, is that maple trees? Is that maple syrup? Is that like the idea of maple? What?
I think all three of those things can exist together.
You know, I almost want to have one of these days when I do like a Daisy bonus stream post like my classes, I'll do an update on research and stuff because it has evolved since my interview. But I work with an organization that focuses a lot on like sustainable forestry practices, specifically agroforestry and kind of repairing our relationships with woodland forests, particularly in Appalachia. And it's
got a pun name.
Yeah, it's got a pun name. It's called Lichen, Liken, Livelihoods Knowledge Exchange Network. And it's directed by Betsy Taylor and Mary Hufford. And it is great. I love it. I am funded by a grant to make movies, basically make educational documentaries about the different partners that we have that are representing some type of agroforestry themed farming practice. So I sometimes go out and I get to be the camera person for Mary Hufford, who's doing interviews with these individuals, and I get to like take cool shots of people like digging up dirt and then hanging out with tree roots and talking about chestnuts. And sometimes I get to drink pear mead and eat chestnuts. It's awesome.
You say that like, oh, it's a 50-50 shot if they're going to have the pear mead at this particular. How common is it?
That just happened last time I was there, but they're usually most of them are out in West Virginia or Virginia, like on the border. And this weekend I was out doing field work with like 3 other partners who were tied to the Maple Festival, which is a maple syrup festival, but it's also
it feels like they're burying the lead by not putting syrup in the name of that festival.
Well, but it's not about it's about the syrup, but it's also about the community. And it's also about the tree, you know, because when I go there, there's only like 3 people who are vending maple syrup based products, and everyone else is like just makers.
Daisy, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Snoop Dogg's AMA on Reddit?
Nope.
About halfway through, Snoop Dogg, maybe under the influence of something, stops answering questions and starts asking Reddit Snoop Dogg trivia to see if they know it. And I feel like Andrew Peck is doing that during his interview.
I think so too.
Literally every time I've done it.
I was going to say,
keep identifying this pattern and then falling into it.
I was gonna say, wow, what a person who asks other people questions. Wow.
What? Wow. You know, you might not be in a folklore department, but that's a folklore trait.
Yes.
I like to think so.
Yeah, we can talk later. We can talk fourth hour. We can talk on another stream entirely about it because this is supposed to be about you.
Oh, don't worry about it. I wasn't really interested.
Do we for YouTube, do we start the interview here or leave all of that shit in?
I don't know.
Our interviews are becoming like that. We come in with 10 minutes of banter.
We're coming hot from the game. Yes, let's go. Okay.
For those of you just joining us, this is my interview in progress with Daisy about her work.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah.
How the turntables.
How the turntables, baby. Before we get to this supposed interview of Andrew here, I would like to thank the sleuths who helped Daisy and I put together these questions.
So
and if you, Dr. Peck, if you hear a question that you enjoyed, don't thank me. Definitely don't thank Daisy. Thank the sleuths because they worked pretty hard on these questions. Okay. So I was going to rhetorically ask.
It seems kind of rude that you didn't get to them until now.
No, this is the part where the most important part is when their work is about to be revealed.
It's already like 9:15.
You know, I was going to ask, we started late. I was going to ask, are you ready? But you're going to say no, and I'm just going to steamroll over that. So here's your first question.
I'm going to ask Daisy another question.
No!
And then just lean back for 15 minutes.
No, you have to answer one question first.
Yeah, at least answer one question, and that is...
Yes.
So as I alluded to earlier about you... doing folklore but not necessarily being in a folklore department or like even like having like that being like the primary thing your PhD like studies were, what would you say is the intersection between folklore and mass communication?
Okay, so I kind of came to folklore in a weird way, and I've had this sort of struggle over the last decade or so of my career over whether or not I should call myself a folklorist. I know that's kind of a big movement in the field right now.
Oh, yeah.
But Dom, as you've mentioned, my PhD is not in folklore. It's in communication. Specifically, it's a rhetoric degree, although most of my publications in media studies and digital studies. My job is not a folklore job. My job is in the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film. So I'm a professor of strategic communication, which is stuff like marketing, branding, advertising, kind of, in a department that's focused on media. So how does folklore fit into this? I think with our current moment as far as media goes, where not just the internet exists that lets people sort of talk to each other one-on-one, but increasingly institutions are turning to the internet for things like finding hot new trends or gauging public opinion. The ways in which people informally communicate online and the way that's structured, both by their own behaviors and by the companies that run these platforms, is really fundamental to understanding just about every part of our current culture, right? And so a lot of media scholars come to the internet based on media theories that have been developed to work with the mass media and kind of build off of that. And you see this every so often. I don't want to name any names, but with scholars from media studies who think they've discovered this amazing new thing that we would simply call folklore, and we recognize as a lineage of hundreds of years of over 100 of years of study, and also goes back hundreds of years as a human behavior, if not longer. So one of the reasons I think folklore is really apt to understand social media is because it helps us understand how stuff circulates. And that's fundamentally what I care about. I care about the informal circulation of information, very often for activist or political ends. And in a current moment, that's stuff like memes. That's stuff like rumors. That's understanding what legends can tell us about how fake news works and why it gains a foothold and how it builds on itself and propagates. So I became a folklorist in many ways by accident, and also because I just kind of enjoy the stuff the field does. I've always kind of been a nerd for contemporary legends, even before I knew they were called that. But I'm mostly self-taught. I took a short course with Jim Leary at Wisconsin. When I was an undergrad, I took a course with Rob Howard, and I took another one with him that was technically a comm course when I was a graduate student. So I have weird knowledge gaps, and I've always been a little bit kind of sensitive about that. that one of the things you kind of gain when you get a PhD in a field is not just you read the canon, but your advisor, they kind of help you understand like the little informal things happening in those things you read that maybe won't be obvious. Oh, actually, this is a scathing critique of this person who they really only cite once.
Yeah.
And I've had to learn a lot of those things on my own, and I'm still very much learning those things. But the reason that I study folklore, the reason I think it's still very, very valuable, is I think it helps us understand our current media environment in a much more comprehensive way than many of those top-down media theories that were developed during the 20th century.
You know, I'm going to agree with chat and say it's such a good answer. And yeah, I really think it's a real good way to contextualize the rest of like your whole work and the rest of the things I want to talk to you about. And thank you for the bits. Andrew, you earned those bits. But yeah, and chat is saying you are a folklorist. Yeah, self-taught, smell-taught.
So the spoiler at the end of this, I've wrestled with this for a long time, and one of the biggest things I wrestled about this with was if my tenure book should be a media studies book that used folklore or a folklore book that integrated some media theory. And I ultimately went with the latter. My book, which should be coming out next spring, is a folklore theory book. And it uses media theories to advance our current understanding of folklore. But it's basically a book that uses contemporary legend as a way of understanding how belief circulates in the digital age.
I like that a lot. I can think of a class I took that would have benefited from this book too. And that being said, that leads into my next question, which was, when did you first encounter Slenderman, and how did you choose to research this legend? When did you first hear of you two?
So I'm a Something Awful user.
I knew it. I knew it.
Can I
basically never post.
Oh my god, Dom! Like when we were talking about this with the other sleuths, Dom was like convinced that you were on Something Awful.
It's obvious. It's obvious. He's got the fundamentals. He's got the fundamentals.
It is my digital culture, and it's been for a long time. More than anywhere else online, SA feels like home.
Yeah.
And I've been on there since 2002, I think. I was trying to nail down the exact year when I was writing the book, because a good friend of mine in high school, who I talk about a little in the book in one of the chapter intros, an adventure he and I went on, he introduced me to Something Awful. And when I went away to college, I started using it really regularly. As well as early 4chan, but that's kind of an embarrassment, unfortunately.
Hey, no, same.
It's something I think hits kind of men in our age bracket. I do not feel proud of it. I think one of the best things that time did is it helps me talk to current young men who are on there and perhaps suggest to them in a way that sounds credible that they can be spending their time better other places.
Agreed.
But no, so I've been on Something Awful for a long time. And in 2009, I was living abroad. And I was on SA a lot, especially like at night there, which was day here. And someone in one of the threads made this kind of offhanded reference. I don't know if it was in June or maybe later that summer, to this other thread. And through that, I kind of did this sort of like backtrack and Googling and figured out what the Slenderman was. And I basically read Create Paranormal Images because as a person who likes kind of spooky shit, I really enjoyed finding these stories online. But unlike other things I'd read, things like the Dianea House or Kill Switch or these are Ted the Caver, these other more like Web 1.0 legends that were created on a static web page. They never traveled, they never varied. People really couldn't interact with them. This was really different. That it didn't just look like a legend, it felt like a legend. The way that people were telling it and passing it back and forth. So I knew about Slenderman before I even went to grad school. And when I was in my second year doing coursework at my PhD program, I was writing my master's thesis. That was the first thing I ever published. It was my thing on memes as activism, Photoshop memes as activism.
Oh, yeah.
And the thesis was not going well. I was not a particularly strong or good writer in those days. But at the same time, I was taking thesis credits and one class. And that class was with my advisor, Rob Howard, on basically folklore in the digital age.
RGH.
Yeah. So for that class, I decided I was going to, write on the Slenderman. And it was Rob who gave me the angle, the idea, like, okay, talk about the emergent nature of performance. He gave me Bauman's book, which I later bought for myself. And he kind of helped me talk through it. And a lot of that article that came from that was me learning for making mistakes on my MA thesis and kind of screwing it up, realizing what I should have done, and then using those lessons to write that seminar paper in parallel. So I don't think my photoshopping meme article is very good. Rarely cited. It's a first effort. But that Slenderman thing took all those lessons to heart, and very much used them to make a point that I'm generally pretty happy with.
So, additionally, like related to Slenderman, you were interviewed a lot because you were writing about Slenderman and going to grad school in Wisconsin during the Wisconsin Slenderman stabbing. What does it feel like to be suddenly considered an expert?
It's so weird because it wasn't at the time the thing I was primarily doing. I was writing on it. I had publications coming out, but my PhD was on memes. And I'd argue, and actually in the book, it's a footnote, but I argue that Slenderman is totally a meme. And this book can help us understand memes and meme culture in addition to things like legend.
Yeah.
It was surreal. It happened so quickly, I did not have a ton of time to think about it. It often felt like I was trying to argue against a foregone conclusion, and in many ways, I was. I talk in the book, I trace exactly how the Slenderman kind of became the story in all of this, and it's just really unfortunate. It's very similar to what I've called in more recent publications an amplification chain, where a thing gets taken out of context and amplified through this sort of algorithmic, social, mass media imbricated process online, and ultimately takes real stories and just fundamentally distorts them. So it was an odd feeling, but I also knew a lot about it. I'd been doing the research fairly recently. I'd also kind of started writing a second piece on Slenderman for Lynn and Trevor. I was already doing the research for my thing on Ostension. So I felt at least comfortable talking about it, especially with my key point, which is this is not the story. Like, this is, you're wildly misconstruing what this is and like what legends are and what they cause and don't cause people to do. So I was ultimately unable to stop the moral panic, but as far as like feeling suited to this, like I felt I had a valuable perspective. I don't know. It's weird to think about now.
And that kind of brings up another thing I'm interested with. It's like, was it hard to handle that you were an expert and you were like you said, like trying to stop the moral panic, like in the face of like a tragedy that had just happened?
I had to be, and I still have to be very careful with my words and how I talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Because I do think that there are things that were wrong with these two young girls that if it had not been the Slenderman, it probably would have been another legend or another piece of media.
Oh, sure.
Right. And I also want to remind parents that like it's not unusual for young people to be into like creepy stuff, right? Like and Andrea's done more work on this, Libby as well, with like Slenderman in younger populations. And also legendary in younger populations, right? That like we have this idea that like little kids are like pure little angels, but like if you talk to anyone who has like a young kid, like they're like kind of creepy sometimes, kind of into like death or like blood or gore, sometimes because they don't quite understand. So one important thing I tried to point out is, the age these girls were tends to be, a little beyond where that might usually happen, at least with that sort of, sense of gullibility, or they believe this.
Yeah.
And we were probably looking at something a little bit more like being, neuroatypical. And it, from what I understand, that's pretty much the answer things came to when they came to court cases. But it was tough, and it's still very tough because Peyton Leitner, who was the victim, is very much a person, very much trying to survive this. Even though I'm sure if you Google her name, the only results you get are related to this tragic incident that happened when she was 12 that she had no control over.
Yeah.
So the chapter in the book on this probably took the longest to write, and I'm still kind of going through it in my revisions, trying to make sure I've said everything in the way I want it to be said. Because this was real close to just being a straight on tragedy as opposed to a horrible, gruesome event that ended the best way it could, but is still just terrible.
Sure.
So I'm very conflicted about it, Dom, is simply the answer I would give. I feel bad for just about every party involved, from the girls to their parents, having to deal with all of this media publicity on top of it, which didn't have to happen. For about 36 hours, this was a real local case just in the Milwaukee news cycle. And really, it wasn't until Slenderman became part of it that this blew up into a huge moral panic, and that stress and strain that put on everyone involved, I must imagine, is something that I would not want to deal with. It seems like irresponsible journalism to me.
I understand. No, and I get that was a tough couple of questions, but those were some good and nuanced answers. So thanks for opening up on that. Let's get to something completely different, although it is similar to you calling something awful your home earlier. And that is, you study internet folklore and you study social media, but you're not really on social media yourself. Why is that?
It's because I study the internet and social media.
Go off.
This started. So I went to graduate school and I knew what I wanted to do, which is kind of unusual for a graduate student, I understand. A lot of people, like, you take classes and you kind of like get an idea of what you want to do because you wrote a seminar paper and you really liked it. Or, you got into this author your second year and this is what I want to do.
Yep. You're just describing shit.
I went in knowing what I wanted to do, which is I wanted to study media rhetoric, which is basically how we talk about media and how media affects the way we talk. And to this day, that is what I do, even though I'm not much of a rhetorician anymore. That's how I'm trained.
Yeah.
So I study the internet because I wanted to study media. I wrote some, seminar papers on historical stuff. It didn't really grab me. But the more I study it, the more I realize that it is terrible. It has some good potential, I think. But I think in our culture, which is very individualistic, we like to look at the individual costs and benefits of things. So if you look at sort of the mythology surrounding the internet, it's now that everyone gets a voice. This is good for the public sphere. This is good for democracy. Isn't this great? And one of the things I've found repeatedly in my research is that this is not sort of this flat, equal plane. And I'm not the first one to say this, or first one to observe this. But instead, certain nodes in the network are bigger than others. And I talk about this in the book when I talk about how people on other websites started learning about the Slenderman, and how, even though there's variation, there are still all of these touchstones that make certain information consistent, because certain nodes in the network are more bound to show up than others. If you Google Slenderman, what do you think shows up, Dom?
Probably Wisconsin.
Take a look.
Probably not Victor Surge.
The first two entries are Wikipedia pages.
Ooh.
And I'm not particularly surprised by that. Otherwise, it's trying to promote a couple of Slenderman movies to me. Marble Hornets movie, the Slenderman
Marble
movie.
Hornets, yeah.
I got the fandom and then the Know Your Meme.
And another important thing that comes up in the book is the way in which Google filters based on individual.
Yeah.
So part of what I had to do was ask friends to Google things who did not have history of looking up Marble Hornets for this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But all of these things that we're talking about are going to be bigger nodes in the network than this other video I talk about in the book, which I don't want to give too much info because it has 40 views, and I'm reasonably sure I'm 20 of those.
Fair.
And it's this 9-year-old kid who's going on a legend trip to find Slenderman in his backyard.
Interesting.
So if we're thinking about what is the most likely entry point or series of entry points to a digital legend, we have these sort of like big nodes in the network. So what does this have to do with your original question, why I'm not online? It's because the internet in the last 10 years has become hugely centralized around a few major social media sites, social networking sites. And those sites aren't neutral. Often people don't realize it, but these sites are curated algorithmically.
Yeah.
You don't see things chronologically. You see things in a way that the site has determined based on you as an individual user is going to create the most engagement, keep you on the site, keep you interacting. And it turns out, as we've learned since 2016, the majority of that content is stuff that creates a strong emotional response in users. In other words, this is a machine designed to create anger and adrenaline and dopamine in various quantities to keep you online and engaged. So I'm not on social media much anymore because even when I post, my posts get seen by a couple of people unless I take a couple steps I've learned that are really reliable. So I'm only on Facebook publicly anymore. And if I want a post to get seen, I have to include a picture in that post, and usually one that includes my face, as well as a caption that is not particularly long. That usually makes it into other people's news feeds because I think the algorithm thinks that those images are valuable, and I think they mistake my face for me having a good time as opposed to, hey, please buy my book. But otherwise, I can post, but I shared, for instance, the Folkwise link today. Last I checked, that got 3 responses. My bet is something about that. The algorithm does not care that I shared it. So these aren't neutral spaces. They have ideology behind them. They have values encoded into the algorithms that sort what we see. And I disagree with a lot of those values. And I think on a cultural level, a lot of that algorithmic filtering is preying on our worst habits and the worst habits of our media agencies. I love journalism. My undergraduate degree is in journalism, and I believe in journalism for a functioning democracy. But I think all of these things that I've just mentioned, the algorithms, the social filtering actions, and the impetus that puts on journalists all reinforce each other in what's effectively a race to the bottom. A race to say things as quickly as possible in the most soundbitey way possible to grab those views because we have hyper commercialized our attention economy. And I don't want to be part of that. So I'm not really on social media anymore.
Good and succinct answer. Can I ask a follow-up to that question and the previous question?
Please.
Yeah, but were you like a paid user on Something Awful?
Oh yeah, no, I have an account. I have an account, a username. I lurked for a long time, not by choice, but because I grew up poor, so I didn't have a credit card to sign up for an account.
Sure, yeah.
So I got the account formally when I was in graduate school. Actually, it was right around the time I was floating the idea that I was going to do this for a class. And I wanted to start, making sure I had the stuff downloaded in case the paywall went up. So for those of you who have not used Something Awful, it used to be that sometimes they would put up a paywall for a week and you just couldn't access the site at all if you didn't have an account. And then there are parts of the site you couldn't access without an account. I'm not sure if that's still how it is or if the paywall is just constant now. But that's when I finally broke down and got an account. And I won't say what my account is, but I will say to Daisy, who said Hachi Machi about 2 hours ago.
Oh, I do.
The account name is a joke from the critic.
Oh my God. Okay.
Beautiful. So moving to something you previously published, considering Death of Doge, your chapter in Folklore and Social Media, about how, and I think this is very interesting, how institutions kill internet meme transmission. How do you feel about Dogecoin as a resurgence of the Doge memes?
It's mentioned in that article. It's an end note.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, isn't it like right at the, I was like, not in the core of the article.
And it may have actually, now that I say that out loud, it may have gotten deleted. The copy editor thought some of the stuff at the beginning was a little bit redundant and kind of deleted a paragraph. Was not super happy about that change, but it was probably for the best. That may have been in that material.
I wish you had a Folklore Twitch show you were on to be able to talk out your deleted endnotes.
Oh my God, yeah.
Make sure when my book comes out to read the endnotes. I have some really great things that I just can't get to work in the main text.
Yeah.
That are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Footnote, endnote, I want to say 29 of chapter 2 is like one of my favorite things in the book, and I just can't get it to fit in the main
Someone
text.
clip that now and then repost it when the book comes out.
Just have me back on once the book comes out so I can promote it and not have to do that on Facebook.
But
I hate cryptocurrency. I've been aware of crypto since, I did, so for my PhD research on memes, part of my ethnographic stuff was embedding myself on a couple different sites. So Essay was one of them.
Yep.
Reddit was one of them. That's when I started using Reddit. I hate Reddit. And 4chan was one of them. And so I've known about crypto for quite a long time. I knew about it in undergrad as well. I think it is. So I object to it on several grounds. One of which is environmental. It is terrible for the planet. I also think that it tends to, in practice, function as a pyramid scheme. I do not think this is liberating in any way, shape, or form. So no, I'm pretty down on all of the coins, whether they be Bit or Doge.
But does the fact that it is the Shiba Inu from the meme make you more or less down?
More down, I would say. Although, so I kind of thought Doge was dead. I literally titled that piece "Death of Doge." Kind of came back in the last 2 years in a big way.
Yeah.
Like it was going through a resurgence like the month that book came out. And we lucked out in a couple ways on that book. So like Gina Jorgensen has her chapter on like Joe Biden memes, and the book came out like right around the election. Like we could not have timed that better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I've been thinking recently about like, okay, back when I was writing that piece in like 2016, 2017, it's a chapter of my dissertation. Institutions were really bad at memes. And I think they've gotten better, not necessarily at memes, but at understanding how to make content go viral.
Yes.
Yeah, they got an algorithm doctor.
If your argument was how institutions kill transmission, they've gotten better at understanding how transmission works.
Yeah, at both appearing authentic or at least not appearing as an institution.
Yeah.
And also realizing that it's really easy to create a controversy or the appearance of a controversy in order to get a ton of earned media publicity.
This reminds me all of Gail on TikTok, the pop star.
Help those of us who are off of social media at this point out. Describe this for me, Dom.
Gail's
very good.
Sure. Gail makes catchy pop songs, and a journalist dug a little bit about how Gail went from like nothing to a pop star overnight, and it was someone replied to a comment to say like, "Oh, here, do like a songwriting challenge." And you got like write a breakup song about the alphabet. And it turns out that was her songwriting partner who already had a breakup song about the alphabet that she wrote and made it look like it was a TikTok challenge.
Yeah.
This is something I try to impart to my student, that this is pretty much everywhere, that your chance of legitimately making it big because people saw your content and liked it is effectively like trying to win the lottery. Right?
Yeah.
That the people who succeed are very similar to the people who succeed in old forms of media. It's just that the commercial influences behind them are a lot less obvious.
Sure.
Right? Britney Spears succeeds. She has talent, but a lot of it is like she's discovered by a label and like they put money behind her and market her as a pop star. And similar forms of institutional influence are happening online. We just don't always see them. And one of the weird things here, one of the lines I'm striding is I increasingly sound like a conspiracy theorist when I start telling people that like M&M's is trying to like put out all these press releases about how they're being brave in the face of controversy to create the very controversy they're ostensibly facing in order to get a bunch of earned media coverage on social media, on Fox News, to make it look like their hashtag is trending because people are talking about how idiotic this is.
Yeah.
So yeah. Get off social media, everyone. What are you doing with your lives?
Get off social media and be nicer to the tramp stamps. Just because they're an industry plant doesn't mean that everyone else isn't an industry plant. Yeah. It's because you noticed one doesn't mean you found the one. So, and I really want to ask this next question because it's kind of come up in every question we've asked, but not overtly. Can you tell us about some of the methodologies you use to do internet folklore research?
So this is a really big question. So for instance, in the book, almost all my chapters use different methods. And a lot of those methods are shifting as digital architecture kind of refines and shifts. But I would say probably at its heart, what I do is a form of participant observation. And I often write about digital cultures that are my own or that, I feel like I've been interacting with for a long time. We're often talking years in that case. But one of the reasons I'm hesitant to say participant observation is I feel like compared to how many of us are trained. So Dom, let me ask you if this was your ethnographer training.
Okay.
You took a class on method and ethics that talked about like how you are representing these people in academic writing. You are the empowered one. They are all kind of disempowered. And so you have a lot of responsibility to represent them accurately, to be clear with your intentions, to try to do so in a way that you find ethical. Does this sound familiar at all, or am I just kind of talking from my own experience?
Kind of. Yeah. Familiar. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things I think the internet does for ethnographic research is I think it shifts that power balance. That what we're writing is showing up in the academy, and it's going to be read by, if you're lucky, a couple hundred people. More likely, maybe 100, maybe a few dozen, maybe a couple. But on the other hand, the possible consequences we face if we write something that maybe speaks truth to the power of a digital community that's really problematic, facing consequences like mob justice, harassment, getting doxxed, and having basically no recourse for that is a really scary proposition. And so it's really made me reassess, like, how much do I want to say up front, hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Peck. I'm an ethnographic researcher at this university. Will you please talk to me? And a lot of what that ends up being is I just end up not doing research or not following up on ideas I have about looking at, say, Anna Morell and I were talking several years back about doing a project on incel communities. And it never materialized for a couple of reasons. But one of which is that if we did something and they did not like it and they got a hold of it, there could be consequences for our jobs, for our families. And so I think this is one of the things that we really need to think about if we're doing ethnographic research online, that maybe we're no longer the empowered ones who are writing about the folk, but the folk have a lot of kind of power over us now. And what does that mean when things can get kind of amplified out of hand? There's an article by Shira Chess and Adrian Shaw, I think. My apologies if I misnamed one of those authors, called The Conspiracy of Fishes, that talks about how the Google Drive notes that they wrote for a fishbowl roundtable at a conference on feminism got leaked on 4chan, and how they both became targets of 4chan and raids because of that. So as far as method goes, participant observation, some media studies, textual analysis stuff, especially when I'm looking at journalism. But big asterisk next to that, because I'm not always comfortable participating. I do in some spaces and others. And that is indeed the correct title. Thank you. And I don't in others.
I felt
it's actually, now that we mention that, one of the big reasons that the book was about the Slenderman is because it's something that I have actively and knowingly participate in. So it is the project where I walk up to people on the street on Halloween and I say, hey, I'm a researcher. Can I take your picture? Can I talk to you about your costume? So
yeah, that kind of
ended up being the project.
brings up the thing I wanted to follow up on. And I especially started thinking of it when you talked about internet communities you were embedded in, I believe is what you said, like Essay and Reddit and the Chans. But how much does habitus play into your internet folklore methods?
What do you mean?
How much do you already have to be on the website you're studying? You can't just show up and say I'm a researcher. How much do you already have to be on Essay to do fieldwork on Essay?
No, I think so I think there are a couple things here. One, I definitely think anyone who's doing this kind of long term, whether that be for a dissertation or if you're doing it for an academic career, you need to be on the website for a while to start understanding the ins and outs of it, sort of the informal norms of communication and what the communication's like. So I would suggest anyone thinking about a long-term project, months or years are kind of necessary. The only exception I would give to that is when something is effectively a new frontier. If I wanted to do research on TikTok in early 2020, I probably could be part of that rush to get on the app and feel like I was learning with a lot of other people. And that was part of the part of the culture there. So I feel like you have to be embedded in a site for a while to get a good sense of them. But then the other part of it is we often talk about websites like they're monolithic, and they're really not. And that makes this even harder.
Good
right?
point.
So like
yeah.
a website's not a community. Smaller constellations of communities exist on websites. And often with some like linkages between those, usually we would call those weak ties, right? Someone who kind of belongs in one group, but they're a stronger tie in another, but they are a conduit where information passes between the groups. So the other thing is just because I'm on Facebook does not mean I understand all of Facebook. Dom, I'm sure you've seen this yourself, and perhaps the chat has as well, where you see an older relative post something on Facebook that seems completely inappropriate. Boomer memes.
Oh my
if that
Minions.
Perhaps
Yeah.
And the thing I always try to convey to my students, because I teach a class called Social Media Cultures, is what you see when you go online is a very small sliver of the overall picture. And when you see these things that don't seem to comport with your idea of what is appropriate, you're seeing someone else's social media culture that the algorithm has decided to put into your feed because it thinks you prioritize your connection with this person. So one thing we can never forget is that the internet is mind-bogglingly huge. And so talking about a culture on a website is even kind of tricky. That there is not a single SA culture. The place I hang out, or the places usually post your favorite or video games, are much different than stuff like fuck you and die.
Yeah.
So there's a certain point, we call it a point of saturation, where you spend time with the community and you kind of gather stuff for your archive and you go through it. And there's a point you kind of realize you're not really getting anything new, that you kind of are figuring out patterns and norms of behavior. And the kind of variances are more minor forms of variation. So you're kind of getting an idea of the overall picture and then how people personalize and work within that structure. And I think that's the point I try to get to as a researcher before I sit down and write a paper or write an article or write a book. Because that shows me, okay, I think I understand this now.
It's a very good point. And that's something I've totally felt and did not know there was like a concept to that which related to it. I really like that answer. Andrew, you ready to lightning round some fun questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. You mentioned early on in the stream that maybe you didn't say this on stream. Maybe you just said this to us before we were rolling, but you said that you normally stick around just when you watch Folkwise Live for the gameplay. And I can think of one memorable moment where you were around for the gameplay when Daisy offhand mentioned that their mom is a Limp Bizkit fan, and you pressed them in chat about it. Why does Daisy's mom's interest in Limp Bizkit fascinate you so much?
Well, I'll also, Daisy, is your mother watching this stream right now?
God, I hope so.
As far as I can tell from my moderator view, she is not. However, she could.
We're gonna pretend she is, or she's gonna watch.
She could be logged out. She could be logged out and watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she go by Mrs. Allstone? Does she go by?
Her name is Paula.
She goes by Paula. Yeah.
I don't think
that just feels rude.
I haven't heard Daisy call her anything but Paula.
You can say Mrs. Allstone. I think she would think that was weird. She's Paula.
Okay, we're gonna try this.
Right in the webcam.
All right, Paula. So, this conversation with your daughter was when I realized that I am closer in age to you than to Daisy.
Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That's what it is.
As someone who is a similar demographic, I just thought that this is funny in the same way that my undying love of Smash Mouth's All-Star is kind of funny.
I mean,
or other greatest hits of the mid to late 90s that perhaps we are tied together by a certain era. Anyway, Daisy tells me that you are a lovely person.
Yes, no, my mom.
Please be patient with your daughter and all the bullshit she asks the guests on the show.
Oh my god.
We'll meet someday.
You're welcome.
I made a poll.
We'll have a good talk.
And they're gonna
I made a poll.
I almost said they're gonna be on the show, and by they I mean my mom and Daisy's mom. We
together.
one day it'll become the Barbara and Paula show. That'll be like a sub goal one day.
James says this puts a real so I don't.
Yeah, that is true. This puts a real. Yeah, have you noticed what the chat has been talking about?
I don't know if you've been noticing or looking at this at all, but I created a poll with our Autobot system about how old you are.
Yes, people in chat have been arguing, trying to figure out how old you are, and there's now a poll.
and this comment that you've just made is a real snag in the poll.
Yeah, people have already voted before hearing that one. Hey, can I talk to you while people get their last couple votes in the poll in? Can I talk to you about another classic from the mid to late 90s?
Yes.
Okay, so one of my favorite memories of us hanging out at conferences was
So
when
good.
we were having drinks on the Queen Mary in Long Beach talking about Metal Gear Solid. And I talk about Metal Gear Solid to Daisy probably once a month on the show, but I realize I've never actually explained what the series is about. Can you tell Daisy, can you articulate to Daisy what Metal Gear Solid is?
Oh my god, I thought for sure you were going to ask me to explain it to the dude.
Oh god, I wish.
Can't. Because I've never played a Metal Gear game.
Really?
What? Really?
I find them boring. People try to get me into them, and it's like, hey, dude, watch this cool video on my phone. And I'm just like,
oh god, it's me.
So no, I've seen clips that friends have shown me via YouTube to try to prove how awesome this game is, and I don't get it. I don't know the story, and I've never actually sat down and played one.
So, two things. One, now that I realize, I guess we did talk a lot about the Escape From series while we were having this conversation.
I will also suggest, Dom, that perhaps based on our earlier interactions this very evening, that I just asked you a bunch of questions about Metal Gear, and you guys kind of filled in the rest of the conversation.
I bet you did, and also I feel like we talked a lot about Snake Plissken more than Solid Snake. But Chad is saying, don't let that stop you. Please explain it to Daisy based on your tangential interactions.
Okay. So Metal Gear Solid is a series where you think you're going to play as Solid Snake, but instead you have to spend the entire time playing as this guy named Raiden. Now, no one likes Raiden, except eventually he loops around and becomes super cool, but it takes like 80 hours and maybe multiple games. Mm-hmm. And also Solid Snake is for some reason really old now, and then he dies, but then they made 4 more games.
You have succinctly explained 2 and 4 somehow. Congratulations.
That's so much better than I would have done. I was like, I think you fight, but you're not supposed to. But also, you should not be caught. You should really not be caught ever.
Sneak. Yeah,
that's all.
Okay,
you should not be caught.
I'm gonna pivot into something I know you know a lot about. Then, how and why did you get into Albert Camus in high school?
So I went through a sort of moody phase. I was too old for goth, but I usually say goth because I was way too young for emo, so probably closer to goth.
Oh yeah, I know the time period you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah. So I did not necessarily whiten or wear white makeup or like foundation. Mm-hmm. But I was already pretty pale if I stayed out of the sunlight.
Yeah.
I would come years later to learn that I have anemia, so that might explain that a little bit. I owned about 20 black turtlenecks, all exactly the same. And part of that whole identity was sort of like nihilistic, like, very like sort of equivocating, like nothing really sort of like smart aleck. It made me feel smart. It's actually another thing my friend Izzy introduced me to. He read The Stranger before recommending it to me. And so, yeah, it was half of my identity. And then the other half is I was a theater kid. So somehow I'm like angsty, nihilistic, don't care. And then the next minute I'm belting out show tunes.
I know the type.
So yeah, that is me. It's not a phase of my life I am proud of, but it's tough to say it did not influence who I am.
And no lie, this actually is a really good segue into our next question. What is your favorite item of black clothing?
My bridge coat.
What's a bridge coat?
Do you know what a pea coat is?
Yeah.
So a pea coat goes down to your waist. A bridge coat goes down to your knees.
Ooh, let's go.
And that's different than a duster because a duster goes to your ankles.
A duster's leather, right?
It's
leather.
It's generally speaking the same like texture and look as a pea coat. It just goes down lower.
Yeah. It is. I was going to say, pea coat, like wool material, duster length is what I'm picturing.
Yes. And much of the reason for that is my bridge coat, which sometimes I wear at AFS when we're in the colder climates, was the first thing I ever bought with money from my adult job. The first big thing I ever bought. It's not like food or,
Good purchase.
So, yeah, no, I'd always wanted one. And so when I finally made it money from teaching, I had a friend take me out to this outlet mall in Bulgwang, which is in the north part of Seoul, sort of like the northwest part of the city.
Oh, cool.
And she translated for me, went to this upscale mall, and I dropped like 200 and some bucks American. I can't remember how many won on it. And I've been wearing it ever since. It's been with me for about 13 years now, and we just keep sewing it and fixing it back together when it comes apart, dry cleaning it every so often. But yeah, I'm very attached to that bridge coat. I think when it finally bites the dust, it's going in a place of honor, maybe next to my wife's wedding dress in the box where it lives. I'm very attached to that coat.
I love it. That's my favorite answer so far. And this is sort of cumulative with this last one. If we ask you if you have a favorite meme, does anything come to mind?
So I had a feeling you'd ask this. And my follow-up would
Thank you,
be,
sleuths.
do you have a type of meme? So like, of all memes, I'd probably have to say the Slenderman because I've been working on it for so long. But it feels like a cheat to say like a horror/legend/meme. So do you have categories?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Well, Dom and I both love Expanding Brain.
Oh, Expanding Brain's one of my favorites.
That's like a top. It's like a top level.
So Slenderman is probably like all-time favorite. Like it's my Gmail avatar. Even if it's years and years since it was that kind of cool niche thing on something awful, I still enjoy it. I really like Doge.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this meme from like 2014 called Yee.
Yee! Oh my god, I love Yee!
Yee!
Yeah,
I was a big fan of that one.
I love Yee. I love that playlist that Yee lives on. Important videos.
I do too. Important videos.
Yeah.
Very important
one of the
videos.
best YouTube playlists.
We are.
It's more viral than meme, but oh god, what is the little dog's name? It's this angry little dog being held in this guy's hand, and he's like baby talking to it, and it's growling at him.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Angie dog memes. That's good. I've on Instagram lately. I follow a lot of pages that are like Angie Cat exe or like Sad Cat Ping, and they just post chaotic cat images. So I'm sure those exist in the dog version.
Daisy,
I'm putting the YouTube video in the chat.
Good man.
Good. Yes.
Oh, I know this dog. Yep, that's what I was picturing. Yep.
But it's more viral video than meme. It's not like there are a ton of variations on it.
Sure. Do you have a favorite meme, Daisy?
My favorite meme format answer is Expanding Brain, and then my favorite like memetic episode is Mandor Handhook Car Gun.
Oh, of course.
That like 8 to 12 layers of Tumblr posts that explain all the context.
No, that whole Tumblr post that is
whole
like
Tumblr post,
eight memes explaining it. Yeah, that's a very good.
Yeah,
what did you call it? What did you say? Event.
Episode.
It's a very good memetic episode. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that because I can use that sometimes to be like, this is why you need to hire a tradition doctor, aka a folklorist or whatever.
So I'm looking at the memes that I teach in my meme lecture, some of which are getting very vintage.
Uh-huh.
Chocolate Rain.
Oh my,
Oh,
that's a
Chocolate
picture.
Rain.
That's pretty vintage. The kids are not gonna get it.
So
No, it's
It's pretty vintage.
can I tell?
Right.
I thought of Chocolate Rain this week. Can I tell the story?
Yeah. Wait,
So-
why'd you think about Chocolate Rain?
Because okay, there's that meme of the guy like making a TikTok, like pointing the camera like at his bathroom mirror to that Nelly Furtado song, the "Oh, you know it, nothing at all to me." Hey,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I remember one time on Best Week Ever on VH1, they asked John Mayer, "Do you know Chocolate Rain?" And he goes, probably Chocolate Rain is the song. And they're like, yeah. And he goes, Chocolate Rain, hey, in my brain, fall from the sky, smell like dookie. And he starts singing, oh, you know, this chocolate rain is poo. And I was singing that to the TikTok like trend, and then going like, what is this? And I had to be like, oh, it's John Mayer from 15 years ago on VH1. I can't believe it's still in my brain. Chocolate Rain in my brain. Can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think I probably officially qualify for veterans benefits with that story.
Yeah, probably.
No, you know what? You want my real qualify for veteran benefits meme story? And this could be like a sentimental favorite meme. I got on 4chan for Boxy. All right, no more comments from me.
Okay,
okay. We'll let that go.
I was pro Boxy. I was pro Boxy.
What is the oldest meme y'all remember seeing?
Dancing Baby.
Dancing Baby. I mean, like Kilroy doesn't count, right?
Yeah, no, I don't.
No, well, technically it does.
Yeah.
But have you seen Kilroy just hanging out?
Yeah.
No, but anytime I meet a
Walking
person,
around as like a 7-year-old in the
No,
90s being like,
on the side of buildings.
anytime I hear somebody's last name is Kilroy, which has been somewhat frequently lately, I always think of that. It's like it just sticks in my brain. Probably okay. If I am personally being realistic, it's probably not Dancing Baby. It's Hamster Dance.
that would be my answer.
I didn't see Hamster Dance right away, honestly.
I had friends who were doing Hamster Dance stuff. I was like, where'd you find this?
I definitely remember some camel spider stuff, but I think that was about 2001. That was like post invasion of Afghanistan, although it might have been Iraq. Maybe that was 2004.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, Badger is one I remember.
Badger, yeah.
Oh, Weeble stuff.
Ultimate
I've always been a big
Showdown
fan of
Ultimate
Narwhal.
Destiny. Narwhals, of course.
Isn't Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny a Neil Cicerega's thing?
I think it's an early Neil Cicerega, yeah.
Yeah. Did I miss a syllable in there? I always just kind of gloss over his name and do Neil C, but it felt like I should.
No, you're being real Italian with it. Neil Cicerega. Cicerega. Daisy, we've got some I don't know if we have a chat question, but we do have the results of the poll, right?
Do we want one last round of voting? Because there's been more information.
There's been clues.
So I'm gonna say, well, let's reveal the results of the poll about how old do you think Dr. Andrew Peck is.
Now I'm gonna get this next thing shared while you do that.
Yeah. I was gonna say there was a chat question, but I turned it into a poll. So
True that.
There's a lot of conflicting information that the chat has gotten about how old they think you are.
Should I
don't know. Immortal might be winning.
Should I open it on stream, Daisy?
You can.
Let me try. And sorry, Caitlin, you're not the guest. Okay. Let me open this on stream and see what happens. Oh, how old? So
there's 5 options that I made. Oh, it's so small on your screen.
It's fine. I'm saying 40. I can zoom in. I'm saying 42.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's 4 options. There's 37.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
37 was the most posted in the chat. What? Why is no one voting? Why does it say 0% on all those?
Thank you. I didn't hear that.
No one voting? People.
Who knows?
Voting?
So what's winning on your side, Daisy?
It still says no one's. It still says no one's voted. People, what are you doing? Didn't you want to vote? Vote by the end of this. If not, I'll just decide. Most people voted by submitting the number 37 in the chat, and then it changed based on several other factors. One person submitted 38, and then I added immortal, 42, or 30. He's lying to all of us. So
A couple of those I like a lot.
everyone thinks it's broken. What? See, it's like, how would we?
Dom, well, Daisy works this out. Are we doing a tier list?
Hey,
Yeah.
You ever do a tier list?
Yes.
You ever done a tier list before?
Wow. It's not often that guests on the show say, yes, I know what a tier list is, to be honest.
Really?
This is normally the point where Daisy explains the tier list, what a tier list is to a guest.
I'm sorry, Daisy. Did I just step on your toes with this? You can explain it to me if you want.
No, that's fine with me. If you understand what it is, I will just only explain that we do have a scale from S to D, although double S and F tiers are precedented on the show. If you feel so strongly about these.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's broke. Everybody, just put what number you submit based on our 5 options in the chat again, and I will tally that up or something.
Yeah, I think people 37 seems to be at least the mode.
37 seems to be the mode. Yeah, some Deathloris is a strong 38. Yeah, post what you want to vote in the chat because it's broken or something. It's very confusing to me. You would think it would be a regular thing. Anyway, so we Dom can explain exactly what this specific tier list is, but we've created a tier list for you. And as I said, you're gonna rank some stuff, and it's gonna be really cool because you are the expert on this material, obviously.
Dom, can you zoom in at all? I'm having a little trouble. Like I can make out like Mudkips.
Dom will tell you what they are. It's hard to zoom in too much, but
chat can see.
Will explain.
Yeah,
I am ready.
Cool. All right, so memes about Pokemon. We've selected some of the best memes about Pokemon of all time, since you know a lot about Pokemon and a lot about memes. So it is your chance to rank the Pokemon memes, and we're starting with a classic. And that
I got this.
I heard you like Mudkips.
So I heard you like Mudkips. This is kind of an older one. If I'm remembering right, you're supposed to spell like L-I-E-K.
Yep.
And this feels really game faxy to me, although I can't say for sure that's the origin of it.
I don't think I've heard that as an adjective before.
Yeah, what?
GameFAQs, Daisy, was a website that people used to go to learn about video games.
Just assuming they're baby.
But I gotta say, I didn't know.
You would type in the URL www, and then you'd hit dot or the period.
You have to type in W's?
Mm-hmm.
GAMEFAQS.com. They were
my God.
a website that existed before social media.
Yeah.
And they might still exist today. Who knows?
It's still there. I still that's where I get all like my real crazy Fire Emblem builds from GameFAQs. Yeah.
Sense. Interesting.
Whenever I Google who should marry who in Fire Emblem, I just get porn.
Oh,
Yeah,
what am I doing wrong,
weird.
Dom?
That's strange how the algorithm has changed.
I'm not supposed to search that on DeviantArt?
I said builds like for abilities, not what you were looking for. Indeed. Oh, where's Heard You Like Mudkips going?
Different kind of build.
All right. So I like this meme, but I have to acknowledge that the reason I like it is not because of this, but because I have this love of repetitive humor.
Yes.
For instance, have you ever watched Mr. Show?
Yes.
There's this one sketch that I think is literally the funniest thing in the world. And it's called The Story of Everest. And to save you 7 minutes of your life, the joke is literally that Jay Johnson, who's now been canceled, but Jay Johnson, who's playing the main character, keeps knocking over his parents' thimble collection for 7 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I love it. So one of the reasons I'm partial to I Heard You Like Mudkips is there was this video making the rounds back in 2009.
Yes.
Which was just mud, kip, mud, kip, mud,
kip.
Back and forth for like 10 minutes because that was YouTube's max.
10 minutes, yeah. 9 minutes and 59
I would just
seconds.
watch it with friends and we'd laugh our asses off.
I did the same thing.
But I think if we're being fair to this specific meme without that contextual knowledge, I want to put it higher. I think it's B at best.
That seems fair.
That's pretty good.
A very similar kind of meme next is Fuck Yeah Seeking.
Yeah, so this also to me has big GameFAQs energy to it.
Oh, absolutely.
And in a lot of ways, So I like memes that try to take lesser used Pokemon and make them seem cool. So for instance, Swept by a Lapras, probably give like that an A. But Seaking, fuck yeah, just does not seem like it has a lot of effort behind it. It really feels like there's nothing special about this Pokemon. Like the idea of being swept by a Lapras is interesting because Lapras has really low speed and suggests that your opponent is not very adept at playing Pokemon.
Maybe you got Halo.
But we're just
You didn't
saying,
miss a
fuck yeah,
blizzard.
Seaking. Okay. I'm gonna say this is a C tier.
Okay.
Not a total failure. Again, I like C tier, not D.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I like what it's trying to do. I just don't think it's that great.
Next up is Who's That Pokemon?
Is this where, to give an example, it's something that seems obvious and then it's not that one, and then someone's like, fuck.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Okay. I like those quite a bit. I'm going to say that's A tier.
Ooh. Let's go.
I think that they have a very simple humor, but I think it works well. And it's one of those things that even though you know the joke is coming, is still pretty darn funny every time or most times.
Pretty
Very
much.
true.
I also think it gives a lot of ability to tweak it. So it can be that it's a weird looking Pokemon smashed into the shape, or it can be the person's reaction is weird.
Yeah.
So I'm giving it an A. I think it's good.
That's good.
Hell yeah.
Next up is youngster Joey and his top percentage Rattata.
Oh, okay. So this is Pokemon Gold and Silver, and this is a character in the game. One of the first NPCs you're likely to battle, and likely you will take down his phone number because he'll ask for it
That's
after
right.
the battle. And then
He's
he
your
will
first
randomly
phone number.
call you throughout the rest of the game to talk about how the Rattata he fought you with, that's like level 7, he's pretty sure in the top percentage of all Rattata.
That's right.
Rattata.
He's pretty sure.
And so it gets real annoying. And so it's one of those things that through sheer repetition, and so many people had this experience because of how the video game's set up, that it became a meme. It's arrow to the knee, but a decade earlier.
You're right.
Yeah.
We could talk all about how certain video games have things built into them that become memes because they're going to be such common user experiences, and they transcend from being like universal and helpful to like, oh, that's weird, to like, oh my God, this is annoying. And this is kind of in that category.
Can I do the Fire Emblem one? Because we've already talked about how much I play Fire Emblem.
Oh my God. Yes.
What's the Fire Emblem one?
Is that the one? Thanks a lot. Is that the one? Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So this is going in C. I appreciate that it's a universal experience. I like those kind of memes. But it just reminds me of annoyance.
Top of C,
Bottom
bottom of
of
C. Top of C or bottom
Bottom
of
of C tier.
Bottom of
Worse than
C.
Seeking.
All right.
All right, next up is the Brazilian meme that we know in the States as Dad Ash.
D.
D.
I find it
Oh,
uncomfortable to look at. I don't like the face. It's purely an aesthetic judgment, but you know what? I'm going to say that's okay because
It
I
works.
talked for like 3 minutes about that fucking Rattata.
Next up is a Wild X appeared. This one is a Wild Chandler appeared from Friends, but a Wild X appeared.
Okay. So, not the funniest meme, but like hugely adaptable. And if we're thinking of like phrasal memes, right? Like if we're divorcing it from the image you have here and just thinking about the utility of like, oh shit, a Wild X appeared.
A Wild
right?
Drunk
Like,
appeared. Yeah.
Right. Like, oh shit, a Wild Pizza appeared.
Ooh.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
it lends itself to variation very well in a lot of different circumstances. I'm going to say this is A, based purely on its like sentence level utility.
Hell yeah. And top A or
And
bottom
how like
A?
widely known the phrase is.
Top or bottom?
I'm going to say top.
Top of A. All
And here's
right.
my rationale for this.
Go for it.
It's much easier to create a variation of a Wild X appeared than it is to create a variation of this. So it's more accessible. It's then going to lead more to interaction and more creativity. And we're going to see a wider gamut of possible stuff.
Hell
So
yeah.
I think as a meme, as something that I can personalize and make my own and share with people who will get it with minimal explanation, I think this wins.
I like that. I like that answer. 3 left. This one is What's Under Diglett.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to find a stream
This-
suitable photo.
This is
Yeah.
so this is B tier.
Okay.
And I would say this is above Mudkip because there's more you can do with it, right? Like I heard
Yeah.
you like Mudkip,
Yeah.
you can really, but it's B tier, for kind of similar reasons that like I personally like it, but I don't think it's A tier. I don't think it has that sort of sense of adaptability and personalization,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have, say, strong artistic or Photoshop skills. So I find them really funny,
Yeah.
but I think it's like
Yeah,
a meme. If we're
they're
thinking
hard
about
to
memes
make.
as being like the peak of like Web 2.0 user generated content, they're not quite up in that A tier that we're seeing for a Wild X appeared or
Sure.
Who's That Pokemon?
Mhm.
Up next, we've got Surprised Pikachu.
S tier.
Yes.
Oh,
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Tell us.
Here's what I like about Surprised Pikachu. And it's not just that this is perhaps the most well-known meme and the most still used meme on this tier list, although it is certainly both of those things. So the reasons it's S, it's super highly adaptable in the same way
Yeah.
that just about any reaction image or reaction GIF is adaptable. You could use it the same way you use any emoji or emoticon to denote surprise. But I think the things it's playing at, not just this like funny thing from Pokemon, from the anime that instills a certain mood, but also like the inertia it has with it, that it's not just, oh, it's Pikachu looking surprised, but it's that sort of like, I am not surprised, that it's developed on top of that. So it has these sort of like two levels of cultural performance or knowledge to it that you can play with in different and rather fun ways. So I think Surprised Pikachu, for being super adaptable and for being able to be used for a fair variety of meanings, makes it S tier.
And the last one, of course, it had to be last, is the Slowpoke advice animal.
Oh man, that takes me back. I think based on what we set out, this has to go in A tier.
Okay. And
In that it is like the other two A tiers. It's bottom of A tier.
Oh, okay.
I think because the joke is a lot more predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But if what we've set out is, how good are these at kind of letting you make your own joke out of them? I think it's A tier in that it's fairly adaptable to a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
And also, my wife and I have Slowpoke as a meme between us.
Aw.
So this
Aw.
might be the one case where something that I feel strongly about personally kind of makes the A tier. Maybe that pushes it over.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every I was just thinking, every holiday you can use Slowpoke. It's 2 holidays previous, but every holiday. Oh, and thank you for the gifted
Whoa!
subs.
Thanks for those subs, Death Lorist.
Enjoy your
Oh my
subs,
gosh.
people. Yeah, thank you, Death Lorist. So this is the end of the tier list. We officially have Dr. Andrew Peck's best memes about Pokemon tier list, and I'm gonna try to do it, Daisy, on a scale from Surprise
you should.
Pikachu to Dead Ass. How little are you being perceived? I don't know. I couldn't do it this week. All right.
What if it's on a scale of Surprise Pikachu to Dat Ass?
Ash.
Excuse me. Well, you said ass.
Did I?
But
Oh, my bad.
I mean, did we? Did we? Ass? Whatever. What do we say? On a scale of Surprise Pikachu to Dat Ash, how? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a rough one this week. It's a rough one to tie together this week, but it is a good tier list. And also, somebody in chat, James Dalton Bell in chat, saying if Slowpoke was in B tier, we'd have another great normal distribution. Yeah, don't expose us to why we like tier lists with 9 entries. But let's get back to. Okay, so
wait, I have a final note to discuss.
This is what I was wondering.
All right, the chat, based on the amount of people who submitted a number in the chat, everybody seems to think you're 37.
Okay.
Some people, there's very few people who think you're 38, and even fewer who said 39.
Okay.
And James noted in, I think, an important way, that originally his guess was 37, but the later information made him think he might be 40 or 41.
Okay.
You don't have to reveal.
There's not going to be an age reveal. What do you think this is?
This is going to be an age reveal. but you have on a scale of the 5 options that I had people submit their answers for, between 37, 38, 42, immortal, and 30, you're lying to us. Which is the closest?
Well, guys, it's been great, but I do have to teach a class.
All right, everybody, ladders,
6:30.
ladders,
Yeah, it's 6:30.
ladders and jump under, everyone.
On the campus, it's an hour commute, so got to wake up early.
Yes,
Got to
good,
make a
it's
coffee.
good. It's good.